we are joined live by senatorial aspirant Rodante Marcoleta. He is with us here in the Morning Matter studio right before he goes to the PDP Laban kickoff in San Juan City later. Good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, Gretchen. It's an honor to be here because morning matters.
Ang ganda po nun. Okay yan. Okay, ito nga pong balitang binasa ko, sinabi ko West Philippine Sea. Mali ba yun?
Yes and no.
Oh, medyo komplikado po yan. Alam po natin, you have made controversial statements recently on the West Philippine Sea. But I guess, including yung sinabi po ninyo nung isang araw na huwag tayong magpakagago at magpaka-ignorante katulad nung Commodore na yun. Bakit yun naman po nasabi? Bakit nyo namura si Commodore Territorial?
Well, it was not an offense intended for him, but as already discussed in so many fora, I said that we need to educate our people in support of the statement of the cyber investigation coordinating center, because the executive director made a statement in one of our hearings that we need to educate and empower our people, especially in the West Philippine Sea, because the bloggers are assuming that they knew this or that, but in reality, the West Philippine Sea is a complicated, more than a troubled waters.
Okay, so then how do we refer now to the western portion of the Philippine archipelago?
I said that we should call it, well, ours, West Philippine Sea, but that is only insofar as we are concerned. So we need to have it recognized by the entire world, by the community of nations, before it is to be officially called West Philippine Sea. Like if you are not supposed to just name a street in a locality without going through the process of, let's say, enacting an ordinance to just recognize that particular street. This is our body of water. It's covered by the entire exclusive economic zone. I'd like to tell our people that whether with name or without name, this is still our EEZ, and we need to fight for it.
So within the Philippines, it is correct to call it the West Philippine Sea?
Yes, domestically. That's a political statement.
Okay.
But the bloggers are using it. But considering that we are not alone in the world, because we need to be recognized by the community of nations, we need to have it officially registered in the International Hydrographic Organization. It's like, not being able to put a word in the English dictionary by yourself.
Because when you say kasi walang West Philippine Sea at katang isip natin to, gawa-gawa natin ito. I do understand and agree that this was a creation of Administrative Order 29, where President Aquino officially mandated government agencies to call the western portion of the Philippine archipelago West Philippine Sea. It was a creation of that, no? But hindi tama po kayo, hindi po ba ito lang yung unang step into actually having it recognized by the world, by the IHO, which you also mentioned, the International Hydrographic Organization?
Yes, but we need more to do and follow up the processes. It's a tick list process. You have to go to the United Nations and follow the processes needed in order for us to be recognized. Because in the international map, the whole area is still called South China Sea. Doesn't mean that it is owned by China. Much like the Indian Ocean, it is not owned by India. The Gulf of Mexico is not owned by Mexico, and so on and so forth.
And which President Trump also renamed to the Gulf of America recently.
How can he do that? He has to deal with the processes, the legal processes recognized by public international
But it
law.
is also important to call it West Philippine Sea ourselves. Is that correct? Because actually, I took a look at that. In 2022, the Philippines has in fact submitted 9 proposals to the IHO that were kept pending because of which requested the mutual consultation between interested parties. Kumbaga, in dispute pa itong mga area na to, kaya pending pa siya. Pero meron na tayong sinumite ng mga proposal sa IHO to recognize this. Actually, nandun din siya sa AO29, sinasabi na the DFA and NAMRIA are to, at the appropriate time, submit the AO and the new map with the West Philippine Sea to the IHO. So kumbaga parang tumatakbo naman na yung proseso.
Yeah, but the premise was actually taken out of context. We were hearing the bloggers who were using all these terms, but I said, if you are not able to educate our people, we are not probably referring it correctly. Because as far as we are concerned, I'm not saying that it is wrong for us to call it West Philippine Sea, because I said, with or without name, that particular area is ours, and we need to fight for it until the last blood.
But what is the problem with the vloggers?
Because as already taken up in the hearings, the bloggers are doing it or maybe stretching it further, like meron siya nasabing deep fakes, and then there are fake news. That's why the executive director of the CICC mentioned that we need to educate our people on the complexities and the complications of the West Philippine Sea. So let us begin, I said, with the term West Philippine Sea, because, well, internationally, it does not exist. Because if you see the international map, there is no West Philippine Sea. It is ours to claim. It is ours for us to claim that this is West Philippine Sea. But we need to do more than that.
I guess we need to put the proper context also to your statement na when you say the West Philippine Sea does not exist, it means hindi pa nakataga sa bato sa international maps.
Yes,
at
that's what
gumugulong pa yung proseso.
That's what I was trying to tell them, but until
But
the
isn't your statement also confusing in itself? Like, lalong malilito yung mga tao. Totoo ba talaga may West Philippine
But
Sea?
that is the way we educate our people. We need to steer their imagination on this, because Commodore Tariela said that I was a traitor. Okay? Can you imagine a Commodore holding such a position and speaking for the country will call me a traitor by just trying to educate our people on the complexities of the term itself?
Although I am aware of several of their initiatives. For one, there is that
We
comic
have not
book.
succeeded.
That comic book that they have been distributing, explaining the differences between Territorial Sea, EEZ, ano bang tawag natin
That's a
dito.
good start.
Ano yung in-award sa atin ng 2016 Arbitral Award? Hindi po ba meron namang ganong efforts? Although we all have our ways to go in terms of understanding
it's more
how
than that.
complex
For
this is.
example, the Arbitral Award. What did the Arbitral Award did for the country? Well, it only said that, the 9-dash line sketched by China has no legal basis, has no historical basis. But more than that, it did not do any good for us. Did the Arbitral Award say, for example, tell China to vacate the Scarborough Shoal? No, because our maritime rights, namely continental shelf or territorial sea and even the exclusive economic zone, are only maritime rights. These are not part of our territory. This is where we need to explain
Actually,
our
yun naman
people.
po ang nasasabi nila na
Yeah,
ito
but
po ay
our
easy.
people do not know. Generally do not know. For example, within our exclusive economic zone, in the middle of that portion of the sea is the Scarborough Shoal. And the occupant now, among the claimants, Malaysia, Brunei, Philippines, Taiwan, and so on, the occupant is China. We used to be there. But now, China is occupying that particular feature. What is the significance of that? Under public international law, the Scarborough Shoal, because it is an island, it is entitled to its territorial sea, which
Correct.
is 12 miles from its baseline. And that territorial sea, now occupied by China, overlaps with our own exclusive economic zone. That's where the problem lies. Now, we need to explain to our people.
Actually, I'd like to challenge that they are the official occupants of the Scarborough Shoal, because that is still in dispute. They have submitted their claims to the UN, but it has also been called a traditional fishing ground where Filipinos are supposed to be able to come in, makapangisda sila kasama ng Vietnam, Taiwan, China, apat po yun na bayan. Pero yung hindi po ba, pag sinabi niyo pong sila ang official occupant nun, parang ibinigay nyo na rin sa kanila at nirecognize nyo na rin ang kanilang, na kanilang teritoryo po yung Scarborough?
No, wala, hindi natin binigay sa kanila.
Hindi, kasi kayo po ay nagsabi na sila po yung occupant.
No, that's why we need to educate our people. Because in public international law, the occupant is the owner. It's unlike our domestic
But that
law.
has not yet been recognized
Because
though,
there is
by UNCLOS.
there is no world court today that will adjudicate that. That is the problem. Let our people know that there is no world court today that will adjudicate in terms of our territory. We cannot even say, we cannot even file a petition. Where are we supposed to file a petition in order for us
So,
to...
but isn't it also within our rights to say that that is our territory?
Yes, it
That
is.
that rock is ours.
Yes, we are all claimants, but the problem
correct.
is the one occupying is China.
De facto
Yes,
control.
de facto,
Okay,
but
okay.
it is physically occupying that island.
Correct.
And under public international law, the occupant is the one who will enjoy the territorial waters of that island.
Because they have taken it over
Yes, ma'am.
by force.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go to another issue,
Yes.
which is what's in the background of this campaign season, the impeachment of the Vice President. Isa po sa mga nabanggit po ninyo ay ito, tinulugsa nyo nga po itong House Committee on Good Governance and their investigation...
On good government.
On good government and public accountability.
Yes.
And their investigation into the alleged misuse of the confidential funds of the Vice President. Sabi nyo, bakit naman iisang opisina lang ang pinipilit ninyong usisain? Hindi ba masyadong halata namang pamumulitika yan? Yan nga pong nabanggit ninyo. Ano? But hindi ba nasa kapangyarihan din ng Kongreso yung power of the purse? They have legislative oversight over spending, and what they're doing here is actually part of their mandate.
Yeah, the power of the purse is another. But auditing the usage of public money is another. There is only one office which was given the mandate and authority to audit the utilization of public funds. It is only the Commission on Audit, nothing else, nothing more.
But they used the COA reports in that hearing, and there were notices of disallowances given to the committee. At nasa kapangyarihan din yon ng House Committee na ipatawag ang mga department heads para ipaliwanag kung paano nagamit yung
That's different.
mga
That's
pondo.
different. The Commission on Audit was still starting on its job. The COA issued an audit observation memo. What does that mean? That means COA is still in its initial findings. There are no conclusions yet. And then the House of Representatives, through the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability, asked COA to submit all those papers which are still being examined by the COA. And the question is, and I raised this issue, how is it possible for the House of Representatives to usurp the functions of an independent constitutional body to which it was tasked for the audit
Isn't
and
it
the study
just,
of all this?
Imbis na usurpation, isn't this like complementary because they're also
No.
investigating in their own capacity?
No, you will investigate in aid of legislation. But you do not do that by usurping, or for the COA to delegate the principal mandate that was reposed to them. There's complication there. And they have not even discussed that. By the way, we need to raise that issue and we need to clarify that. But, all of them refuse to answer.
But isn't it also in the powers of the Congress na hindi lang po in aid of legislation, kasama na po yun, pero you are also tasked to be able to regulate government spending. You have the power to question executive spending. Nasa Article 6, Section 29, at no money shall be paid out of the Treasury except in pursuance of an appropriation made by law. Ibig sabihin, you should check as a congressman if the money, the budget is being allocated in the right way,
Yes, but
such as the confidential funds.
But you need to wait for the COA because the COA is the independent constitutional body
Okay,
tasked
so
to
you
do
were
just
saying that after COA finalizes its investigation, then the committee can
Yes,
now
because you need
open.
to go to the process. After COA, for example, made the conclusion, like from audit observation memo, they concluded that it should already graduate or transition into a notice of disallowance. Even the notice of disallowance is assailable. It is appealable. So there is no conclusion there. As a matter of fact, the subject matter of
But
the audit...
don't you think the questions also were relevant in the Committee on Good Government?
But when the questions are only targeted, are only asked to a single office and refusing to call the other 400 officers of government who were already recipients of the confidential funds, and like the office of the Vice President, were already subjected to audit observation memo. Aren't we supposed to say that we're doing this objectively? How can we say that we are doing it objectively when you only targeted one office?
But if you're investigating something that doesn't mean it nullifies the investigation that's ongoing.
No, but I'm saying
the challenge is to be able to do that.
But
to
the
apply
nature
that.
of the investigation, why is it only confined to only one office, forgetting the rest? And how would the people interpret the way we do things here? Are we not supposed to be doing it objectively?
But do you think the investigation has merit in itself?
It
Taking
should
a look at the
but it should
investigation
have
itself.
merited the approval of our people. Let's say calling all the 400 offices, because these are all similarly situated. Why are we picking out only the office of the Vice President? That was the question I raised.
Because there was evidence presented.
Aren't evidence also on the other 400? Did we conclude that the others
Pero
must
dahil
not be
hindi po
respected?
ito binubuksan, hindi po ibig sabihin na ito po ay walang merit.
Yeah,
Tama
but-
po ba? Bilang isang abogado, per case
No,
po
but
kayo nag-handle.
they
di ba?
say that we are investigating in aid of legislation. How can we possibly do that if we do not include all the offices that were supposed to be targeted? Because it's confidential funds. Now, they have not presented any reason why they targeted only the office of the Vice President.
And actually, that is the constant question we throw as part of the media, that this should be also applied to other offices. But it also
Precisely.
does not take away the value of that investigation.
No, but the value is supposed to be diminished by not including all the
Although
offices.
the Vice President's office is an executive office.
Well,
and
the
then
office of the
it's
President
spending-
is much an executive office. And the office of the President is also recipient of confidential funds. Now the question is, why only the OBP? Why not the office of the President too?
All right, we have more questions to answer and to ask to our special guest for today. We have senatorial aspirant Rodante Marcoleta. We are still with Sagip Party-list Representative and senatorial aspirant Rodante Marcoleta. He joins us on Morning Matters today. All right, marami po tayo pag-uusapan, ano? Dahil marami mga issue. Pero isa sa mga issue ngayon ay there is a proposal in Congress to renew the franchise of ABS-CBN. Are you for this?
Well, if they are able to prove that ABS-CBN already complied with the directives of, I think that was 8 in Congress, like, settling all the violations that we have. Well, there were so many violations that were found during the 18th Congress. And is the author, or who are the authors of this measure, if there is one, have they even studied if ABS-CBN already complied with all its obligations? Well,
Actually, I remember you made different assertions regarding ABS-CBN. For example, that ABS-CBN operated and sold illegally millions of black boxes without approval of the NTC. And
NTC.
Yes, the NTC, that ABS-CBN did not pay its taxes correctly. Correct? Is that correct?
Well, among others.
And then ano pa po yung mga iba pong naalala
Philippine
po ninyo?
depositary receipts, how they managed to evade paying the correct taxes by utilizing a company called Big Dipper. You know, this corporate layering. and transfer price scheme, all in the effort of hiding the correct taxes that should be paid to government. And issues about citizenship, because this is a constitutional matter. And the Constitution is very, very clear and strict that only Filipinos should manage and own mass media in this country.
To which sinagot na po ito ng, actually, ng former Philippine Stock Exchange President. Sinabi po niya that PDRs are not considered certificates or proof of ownership in a corporation.
That
These
was
are
not
merely
the findings
shares.
of the 18th Congress. The findings is that these violations were confirmed.
Because the Constitution prohibits them from owning a media entity, that it does not extend to that, the PDRs. Yun po yung naging paliwanag doon. Ano?
Sinong magpapaliwanag?
Yung itong galing sa Philippine Stock Exchange na president.
Ngayon yung pinapaliwanag. We already found that out in the 18th Congress, and there was already a decision made that ABS-CBN committed all these obligations, all these ABS-CBN committed several violations. So,
In terms of the tax liabilities, they are already cleared ABS-CBN.
sino nag-clear?
BIR itself, the Bureau of Internal
How
Revenue,
was it
said
cleared?
no,
Sinabi niya?
that ABS-CBN has no outstanding liabilities
That
that they
was
have paid
only
their taxes.
one of the assertions in one of the certifications they issued. It does not cover, it was not a blanket authority for the BIR to say that. It was already qualified in that hearing long ago. Ngayon lang nila sinasabi yan.
So
that was
if
taken up in the hearings.
Okay, if all of these violations that you mentioned are fixed by ABS-CBN, then you're open to restoring the franchise of the
Oh
network.
yes, but first of all, ABS-CBN should show and present evidence that she has already complied with all the obligations that were required of her to submit or to do or to pay to the government. Until and unless ABS-CBN should do that, how can they even begin to pretend that they are able again to apply for a new franchise? As a matter of fact, is there still a frequency that need to be given to ABS-CBN?
Because
Di ba
of
bigay-
how it has
Hindi ba?
been able to transition to the digital realm.
Wala na, di ba?
Wala na po.
Ay,
Wala na siyang
asan ang franchise pang ibibigay? I think yung franchise binigay na sa iba.
Okay, let's go to your candidacy. Moving the issues out of the way. You are running for senator
Yes,
this
ma'am.
time. For the second time, this time tuloy na.
Yes.
But you are not with PDP Laban, but you are joining the kickoff later. Am I correct?
I am running as an independent senator, but I was adopted by way of a resolution by PDP Laban. As a matter of fact, it's not only PDP Laban which adopted me. There's also this Partido Federal Maharlika, headed by former Secretary Bello, which adopted me. There's also the party of the late Senator Miriam Santiago, the People's Reform Party, which adopted me too. And there is another one which intends to adopt me. They call itself WPP. I think this is called Workers, Peasants, or Peasants Party. Pero wala pa yung formal resolution. So actually, there are 4 parties.
We know that you come from Iglesia Ni Cristo.
Yes, ma'am.
But how do you plan to campaign? I mean, to strengthen your numbers. At the recent Pulse Asia survey, I believe you're number 23 in the list. You have 12.5%. How do you plan to increase those numbers, and which areas are you targeting?
You're coming from a survey because you believe the survey. You do not believe that some efforts are being done to dampen my candidacy, and I can feel that. Several actions are being taken up, including the mainstream media.
So hindi po kayo naniniwala dito sa survey numbers?
Well, I myself because I can see it. For example, in Hong Kong, I was in Hong Kong by a surprise visit, and I tried to see whether people would react in my mere presence without being or without announcing my presence in that particular day. I happened to be with one of the senatorial hopefuls who are appearing in the survey. I think the one is from 1 to 5. Pero magtataka ka, how the people felt, how the people reacted there. Nobody even took a selfie doon sa isa. Pero sa akin, well, I would not exaggerate, but paano mo sasabihin? We're getting their numbers. For example, SWS, I saw the instrument of survey they did. There were 40 names. And I show it to the chairman of the COMELEC. I said, George, please look at this. I'm not even one in these 40 names they use as an instrument of the survey. When they presented the result of the survey, how come I was number 36? I could not be there because I'm not in the 40.
Well, medyo mahigpit po ang laban ngayon, ano? Pero isa sa mga talagang makakatulong po ay ang presence ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. He will be there at the kickoff rally in San Juan. Any idea about his speech? Naging maanghang ang mga salita ni PBBM nung isang araw sa
Why
kanilang...
maanghang?
Sinabi po niya, actually, I have a list here sa kanyang mga sinabi.
Maanghang?
Sabi niya, walang bahid ng dugo ng tokhang ang kanyang mga kandidato, malinis ang track record. Ito, babasahin ko po sa inyo. Tignan niyo pong record ng ating mga kandidato. Wala sa kanila ang may bahid ng dugo dahil sa tokhang. Wala sa kanila ang kasabwat sa pagbulsa ng sako-sakong pera, pinagsamantalahan ng krisis ng pandemya, pinabayaan ng ating mga kababayan na magkasakit at mamatay. Wala sa kanila ang pumalakpak sa China at natutuwa pa kapag tayo ay binobomba ng tubig, etc., etc. I mean, what would you have
To whom
say
is the
that?
president referring to?
Do you think he was referring to the Duterte administration?
I'm asking you because I have no idea as to who is the president referring to.
So you have no idea?
I want to know
Okay.
because probably you know better.
Pero ito pong speech ni Pangulong Duterte mamaya, ay may idea po kayo kung anong sabihin niya?
I don't know. I have no idea as to what the former president will say. Pero kung judging from what the president said, I'm very sad why he said that. Because in the last election in 2022, because I was part of the unit team, the president did not say anything about the opponent's political side. He kept on his narrative of uniting our people. I remember that very, very well because I was part of the team. So it's a revelation that the president would turn 360 degrees and now calling names to the other side. I'm really very sad why the president said that.
Kayo po ay na parte ng unit team slate,
Yes.
but you are now with the side of the Dutertes, specifically because you are choosing to join the PDP Laban kickoff later. I mean, how does this all surprise
That's
you?
the
What's
misconception.
happening?
That's a misconception because I said I am running as an independent senator. PDP Laban adopted me, and I think because of that adoption, and I was invited to be there. So people would say that I am pro-Duterte. I think I am pro-nation. I am pro-people. If I need to go there because I was adopted, I need to go there. But in the end, I think what we need to see is how to...
How will you be
How to-
campaigning then? Will you be joining PDP Laban or you will campaign independently?
As an independent candidate, I will campaign independently. But if there is time to join them in some of my sorties, I will probably join them because this is how we need to get people know us better.
I guess on a final note, because we're running out of time, we do know, sabi ko nga po, kayo po ay galing sa INC. Does that mean to say that yung po mga sinusulong ay also, yun din po ang mga sinusulong ng Iglesia ni Cristo as a representative?
What do you mean? I mean, I am legislating for the INC.
Hindi naman po, parang kung ano po yung naging yung boses po ninyo, you're also kind of representing them because you come from the INC, or is that totally?
Doesn't make any difference. A Catholic candidate wouldn't say that he's only legislating for the Catholics or Protestants. Being an INC, well, I can uphold the doctrines of the INC like unity, like, sympathetic to the poor. These are all basic doctrines that apply to the betterment of our people. So I wouldn't say that that's a liability for a senatorial aspirant simply because he comes from a religious entity. We have all religions, all candidates profess religions.
If you were to win, Senator, ano pong isusulong po ninyo?
Where do you want me to start? There's so many problems facing this country.
Mamaya po, aabangan po namin kayo.
Yes, ma'am.
Doon po sa kick-off rally sa San Juan ng PDP laban. We have Senatorial aspirant Rodante Marcoleta running independently but joining the kick-off later on. Alright, maraming salamat for joining us.